Imagine a boy named Eli, not a broken boy, not an angry boy, not a boy born with shadows stitched into his skin. No, he entered the world the same way all children do, with wide eyes and a mind full of color, constantly tugging at the edges of wonder, a little dreamer who asked why more than he asked anything else. But the world he landed in, it wasn't built to hold a child like him, not with the tenderness he needed. His father came home like a storm, loud, unpredictable, carrying thunder in his fists and lightning in his voice. His mother faded the opposite way, retreating into the kind of silence that can pierce deeper than shouting. And so, Eli learned the house, the way a soldier learns a battlefield, by sound, by instinct, by the subtle shift of floorboards beneath bare feet. Dinner time wasn't dinner. It was a ceasefire that never held. Arguments hung in the air like smoke, sharp and cutting, without a single apology to clear the room. But it wasn't only the trauma that shaped him. Children can survive pain more easily than they can survive its denial. What truly damaged Eli were the forced smiles in public, the pretend normal, the way no one ever said something is wrong here. That denial became its own kind of toxin. A poison slipped into his understanding of reality. Because a mind can endure a lot, more than most people believe. But no mind is unbreakable. Trauma doesn't stay politely tucked inside memory, like a photograph in a drawer. It burrows into the nervous system. It rearranges the map of how someone sees the world, others, and most painfully, how they see themselves. Trauma teaches a child they are unsafe, that their feelings are unimportant, that their existence is almost unreal. Eli grew up, and as he grew, the mask he wore grew with him. He became charming, wry, adaptable, someone who could read a room faster than he could read his own emotions. He learned to become whatever others wanted, a shapeshifter crafted for survival. People liked him, some admired him, but inside he felt hollow, like the burnt-out shell of a building that still stands even after the fire has eaten everything living inside it. That's what unresolved trauma does. It splits the self. The outer structure remains. The inner life abandons it. Carl Jung once said that the greatest burden a child inherits is the unlived life of their parents. Eli inherited those shadows, not through genetics, but through silence, through suppression, through a childhood where emotional neglect was as constant as the air he breathed. His unraveling didn't happen all at once. It started with restless nights, a sense that something internal was misaligned even though everything looked fine from the outside. Then came the paranoia, the anger, the kinds of self-loathing so deep they felt bottomless. He couldn't trust anyone, not even himself. Relationships turned into minefields. He pushed people away and begged them not to leave in the same breath. Love became a war, and he played both the defender and the destroyer. He once tried therapy. He told the therapist he felt numb, dreamless, like a stranger to his own reflection. They labeled it anxiety, depression, but labels couldn't touch what lived underneath, because trauma, when ignored, doesn't fade. It waits, it simmers, and eventually, it emerges in whatever form will finally demand to be seen. A breakdown, an addiction, a silence from someone who used to laugh. The loudest Eli started talking to himself. Full conversations, arguments, shouts that belonged to no one else. He walked past mirrors without blinking, as though the person inside was an intruder. He filled notebooks with thoughts that spiraled in ways no one else could follow. His friends said he had changed, but the truth was simpler and sadder. He had run out of energy to hide what had been there all along. People call it going crazy, but often it is simply exhaustion. The fatigue of a lifetime spent burying wounds that were never meant to be carried alone. The human psyche is not a machine. It's a delicate weave of memory, emotion, belief, and meaning. And when too much of that tapestry is stained by unspoken pain, the threads begin to loosen. Eli started believing the voices. He began seeing patterns in meaningless places. He called them signs, messages. He became convinced the universe was speaking directly to him, not poetically, but literally. A flicker of light, a song on the radio, a stranger's glance, all became coded instructions. What was really happening was this: his overwhelmed mind was trying to make order out of unhealed chaos, trying to solve a puzzle that had been ignored for too many years. That's the cruelest part of untreated trauma. It refuses to let you rest. It slips into the shape of anxiety or hatred or even mystical revelation. But beneath every disguise is the same desperate plea. Please see me. Please help me. Please don't leave me alone with this. By the time the world noticed Eli's struggle, it wasn't compassion he received. It was fear society is terrified of madness. It turns people like Eli into cautionary tales, statistics, whispered tragedies. He didn't break because he was weak. He broke because he spent too many years pretending he didn't hurt. Some call what happened to him insanity. Jung called it something different. Individuation, the painful, chaotic, necessary journey into the hidden parts of one's psyche. But from the inside, it didn't feel noble. It felt like drowning, like being dragged into a cave full of shadows that had waited decades to speak. People think losing your mind happens in one violent snap, but it happens slowly, like a crack creeping across a mirror. Outsiders only notice the final shatter. They never see the tiny fractures forming in silence. Unacknowledged pain doesn't die. It multiplies. Buried anguish becomes a ghost, and ghosts do not rest. They haunt. Eli wasn't just dealing with memories. He was carrying the entire emotional weight of years. Abandonment, confusion, rage, sorrow, the grief of a childhood he never truly got to live. The quiet moments that should have held comfort held fear instead. Those moments came roaring back. In psychology, we talk about the false self, the version of ourselves built for survival, not for living. This self smiles, performs, adapts, keeps the world comfortable, all while hiding truth so deeply. Even the person wearing the mask forgets it exists, but the truth never forgets. Eventually, the mask fractures, and beneath it is not madness, but the shadow, the part of ourselves we were taught to exile, the pain we minimized, the fear we denied, the voice whispering that we were never loved the way we needed to be. That's what people call going insane. It's not demonic. It's not nonsensical. It's the psyche collapsing under the weight of years spent pretending. But collapse, in its strange and brutal way, can also be an opening, because when everything falls apart, when the lies crumble, when the mask finally slips, what's left is the one thing that can heal you: the truth. Eli's truth was simple and devastating. He had been abandoned. He had been hurt. He had been unseen. And for years he convinced himself it didn't matter. It did. It always did. Healing began the moment he stopped running. He started writing, not to heal, not to understand, but simply to release. His pages became storms, scribbles, symbols, repeated sentences, like mantras. One line surfaced again and again, trembling with power. I did not deserve this. That sentence didn't bring peace, but it brought permission. Permission to feel anger, to feel grief, to feel anything. And in that honesty, a small seed of hope grew. Not loud hope, not inspirational hope, quiet hope, hope built from truth. He returned to therapy. This time he didn't try to impress anyone. He didn't try to be clever or spiritual. He simply cried for the child who grew up afraid, for the adult who never felt safe, for the madness that made sense once he stopped pretending. He wasn't cured, but he wasn't lost anymore. He learned that madness was never his enemy. It was a signal, a message, a final, desperate attempt from the parts of himself he had locked away. And once he opened the door, those parts didn't attack him. They thanked him because someone had finally listened. If you've ever felt like you're unraveling, if the world feels too loud and you feel too fragile, know this: you are not broken, you are hidden. Healing is not becoming someone new. It is remembering who you were before the pain taught you to forget. How do you begin? With stillness, not dissociation. Stillness, the kind that lets you hear what you've been avoiding. Write, cry, walk, scream, but do it with awareness, without shame. And remember this: the world does not need more perfect people. It needs people who have walked through their darkness and returned with light.